Hello everybody, this is Fun Police, and I am back with a new Company of Heroes 3 video. It has been quite a while since I've made one of these, as the game actually has not been available since the last pre-alpha several months ago. But just yesterday, we got access to the multiplayer pre-alpha, which has given us the ability to play actual games against each other. We've gotten access to the US and the German faction, a couple battle groups, and overall the base roster. I have so far been having an amazing time with the game, really enjoying it, and just overall still very excited for the game. And for today, I'm going to run you through a crash course of pretty much everything within the German faction. We're going to talk about field marshals, we're going to talk about all of the units and tech options that are available within the German faction, we'll talk about their battle groups, everything. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to not miss out, because I'm going to be doing a US version of this, and you won't want to miss that one. I also got some other ideas planned, so we'll see where that all goes. But anyway, let's not dilly-dally too much. We got the German forces to go through. The first thing we're going to talk about within the German faction is the field marshals. We have three options to pick from, each of them providing a series of additional changes to your various units. We have fortifications, the mechanized, and the spec ops. To start out with, each of them provides a variety of abilities to certain units, alongside offering several unique veterancy abilities. For the most part, your Vet 1 abilities are going to come from which field marshal you choose from, and it will vary on your various units. Starting off with the fortifications field marshal, grenadiers are equipped with rifle grenades. Bunkers can become reinforcement bunkers. Essentially, they have medics around them and you can reinforce near them. And tanks can hull down, increasing their armor value, but they have to become stationary. In veterancy, infantry can receive medkits, allowing them to pay a small munition cost to heal, similar to infantry sections from Company of Heroes 2. Team weapons can camouflage and set ambushes, essentially gaining ambush camouflage, as seen in Company of Heroes 2. Light vehicles receive spotting scopes, again an upgrade seen in Company of Heroes 2. They simply get more sight when they're not moving. And tanks get defensive first strike bonuses. The bonuses is if you're in friendly territory and not moving, the tank will be able to fire an extra damaging shot that has increased penetration and better accuracy, essentially giving a very powerful first attack. Option number 2 is the mechanized field marshal. This provides grenadiers with a stick grenade. The bunkers can be upgraded to repair bunkers, which provides several models that will heal nearby vehicles, and tanks can be upgraded with side skirts, overall increasing their side armor and overall making them more durable. Veterancy wise, infantry receive combined arms effects. Essentially, when they're nearby vehicles, infantry will fight better. Team weapons can rapidly displace, which essentially increases their pack-up time, allowing them to quickly move where they need to be. Light vehicles can self-repair, which allows them to heal themselves for a small munition cost without engineers nearby. And tanks can use blitzkrieg, which allows them to quickly zip around the field to where they're needed, or dive or do whatever. And then finally we have the special ops field marshal. Grenadiers have incendiary grenades. Bunkers can be turned into observation bunkers, which essentially have a very large sight range. And then tanks can be upgraded with camouflage netting, which essentially allows them to, when stationary, hide themselves and act as ambush. Veterancy-wise, infantry can capture territory faster. Team weapons can use unique munitions. These can be various things. I believe the MG42, the carried one, will fire off in armor-piercing rounds, allowing them to lightly damage enemy vehicles, but almost every team weapon has that. Light vehicles get concealment smoke, essentially similar to Panzer Tactician or any other smoke ability seen on tanks, and then tanks themselves get unique munitions, usually stronger rounds or special rounds that allows them to deal with certain targets. Overall, the field marshals can greatly change how each of the factions works, as uh, because you're able to really change up what your units can do. The fortifications field marshal, for example, allowing your forces to heal themselves with medkits, allows you to maybe not buy the medic upgrade at your HQ for some time. Or you could go with the special ops and allow yourself to have faster capping territory. It all is relative, but greatly changes how you can tackle a thing, how you can tackle certain games, and works for greater build diversity alongside the battle groups. You have to pick one of these in order to get the upgrades. They are currently free in the pre-alpha, and you are only able to pick one. The first unit we're going to take a look at is the Pioneer Squad. It is built from the main HQ and costs 125 manpower. It is a 3-man squad that comes armed with 3 MP40s and acts as your engineer squad. And as such, it has the ability to repair friendly vehicles and buildings with its ability. It also is able to construct a large variety of various structures, such as sandbags, barbed wire, a fighting nest, which is essentially a weaker bunker, tank traps. It is able to lay landmines, concrete bunkers, which is your standard bunker that you'd see in most other games, and then the resource cache, allowing you to improve the resources of a certain sector. They are also able to upgrade a Flammenwerfer 35 for 50 munitions, or a utility package for 30 munitions, allowing them a minesweeper and wire cutters. They are able to detect mines and cut barbed wire with this. Overall, the Pioneer Squad is not particularly effective in combat. If it can get close range, it can deal with softened up enemies. And if it has a flamethrower, it is effective against enemies in garrisons. But otherwise, the Pioneer Squad suffers from just that incredibly small 3-unit size that makes it too squishy to be a frontline combat unit. But it can do decent support work once a flamethrower is added. The next unit we're going to take a look at is the Kettenkrad SD-KFZ-2. It is an ultralight recon vehicle. It costs simply 110 manpower and has no weapons initially, but it does capture territory 50% faster than regular infantry. It also says it can be armed with an MG34, but that upgrade seems to either not be in or just be outdated. It is able to upgrade communication cables, which allows it to provide additional resources and line of sight when capturing resource points. Essentially, I believe this allows it to sort of siphon resource points from those that are that it is capturing from the enemy. It also has field defenses, allowing it to lay trip flares or landmines. It is able to drop medical supplies, allowing infantry to pick them up and heal, and it can also do a quick scan, allowing it extended sight range. It has to be stationary, but as you see in the upper area, this area was revealed. The Kettenkrad can spot very quickly, but only while the ability is active. Overall, the Kettenkrad is practically useless in combat and is effective at either quickly capping up territory early on and then providing excellent sight range as needed. It pairs very well with stuff like machine guns and long-range infantry that can use its extra sight range in order to effectively engage before the enemy can. From the starting HQ, you are able to purchase a medical station. It costs 200 manpower and 20 fuel, and simply allows you to heal squads automatically out inside your base. Pretty standard upgrade, but important to get. The first tech building we're going to take a look at is Infantry Company. It costs 100 manpower and 15 fuel and serves as your basic building. You are practically required to build this, as it is going to provide your mainline source of infantry alongside several support teams. The first unit we're going to see out of the building is the Grenadier Squad, your starting mainline infantry. They cost 270 manpower, and are armed with 6 Kar 98s. They capture territory 25% faster than than the standard rate. And they have several unique abilities. They start off with the ability to launch a Panzerfaust, which is a short-range snare, but that requires the Luftwaffe or Panzergrenadier Company, essentially a tech up. The squad merge allows the Grenadier Squad to act like the Soviet conscripts from Company of Heroes 2 and merge with a squad on the front line, giving some of its models to that squad in order to reinforce them immediately. They are also able to construct field defenses, such as sandbag walls, barbed wire fences, or fighting nests. They also receive various abilities based on the field marshal, namely grenades and oftentimes whatever their Veterancy 1 ability is going to be. Overall, Grenadier squads are best used as long-range filler units. They are very weak in combat on their own and really should focus on trying to fight at long ranges away from the combat, as they simply don't have the damage output to deal with squads up close. If a rifleman squad, for example, gets close, the Grenadier squad will lose every single time. The next unit is the MG-42. It is a 4-man heavy weapon team. It costs 260 manpower and is the basic MG of the Wehrmacht. It is able to set up, as most MGs are, with a large firing cone and will rapidly suppress any infantry that get in range of it. You can hold it to hold fire in order to shoot at what you want, and it will also get an ability based on the field marshals, as most units will. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. You should use it to suppress infantry and support your other units. It works extremely well with Grenadiers and Kettenkrads. The Kettenkrad can spot for it, and Grenadiers will benefit from the suppressive firepower that the MG offers, allowing it to better win fights. The follow-up unit is the GRW-34 Mortar Team. Again, costing 260 resources. It is another crew weapon, and acts very similar to most mortars within Company of Heroes. It is able to set up and will then be able to fire a variety of barrages in a location that you specify. This includes a high explosive one, which is able to fire out, as you see in the indicated cone, or smoke. Both of them cost nothing, but they do share a cooldown, so if we fire with the... Or actually, I'm sorry, I'm incorrect. They do not share a cooldown. But if you do give an order to one of them while they are firing, then it will cancel out the other order. It is mostly effective at digging out enemies from strong emplacements or positions. It can be very useful to stop the enemy from taking a specific high ground and denying them that area, or smoking an area to allow your units to get closer, get to a position that is favorable. The final unit you're able to build from the Infantry Company is the Sniper. It costs 340 manpower and is essentially every sniper that we see within the game, or in pretty much every single Company of Heroes game. It's a one-man squad with a range. It can hold fire, and it is able to instantly kill one model. It camouflages in cover and essentially just does everything a sniper does. Effective at bleeding especially low health targets or elite infantry units, but fragile and a big investment. Within the Infantry Company, we also have the ability of transfer orders. Essentially, we are able to take a fully reinforced Grenadier squad that has 6 models, and we can convert them into either a Jaeger squad or a Panzer Grenadier squad. We need their respective buildings built, but this allows you to essentially turn your Grenadiers into more specialized and more powerful infantry later in the game. However, it does come with one downside of that. You do have to pay some amount of manpower, and you also lose all experience. So there is a big trade-off when you move to transfer. For this first tech up we're going to construct the Luftwaffe Company. It costs 150 manpower and 40 fuel, and will provide its own set of unique units. We could also go to the Panzer Grenadier Company, but that is going to be covered in a little bit, as it is essentially the other side of Tier 2, and we should really only pick one to build. The next unit, or the first unit to come out of the Luftwaffe Company, is the Jaeger Squad, costing 320 manpower. They are a long-range squad. They are armed with G43 rifles and can have two different upgrades. They can upgrade a Panzer Schreck, which is an anti-tank vehicle for 90 munitions, or we can pay 60 munitions for a recon package, allowing them to use their flares and also giving them a scoped G43, making them more effective at killing models with sniper-esque shots. They can essentially insta-kill models that have taken some amount of damage. They also come basically armed with a smoke grenade, which is useful at helping to close distances or create sight blockers as you move your units into position. Overall, very effective at long range. But they do have a bit of an issue if enemy units can close the distance. The second unit within the Luftwaffe Company is the Scout Car SDKFZ 221. It is 260 manpower and 25 fuel. It is armed with an MG42 and is largely a sort of in-between of the other light vehicles and the ultra-light vehicles. It is much more powerful than something like the Jeep, but doesn't stand up to some of the later Allied light vehicles, such as a Greyhound. Armor-wise, it has 27.5 frontal armor, 20.5 side armor, and 15 rear armor. This is relatively limited and essentially mostly makes it immune to smaller arms fire. Pretty much all anti-tank guns and all anti-tank sources will be able to deal with it, and I believe MGs might even be able to do a little bit of damage, but maybe they need their anti-armor piercing via options. They do have two upgrades. One is the radio set, which allows them to upgrade the ability to use signal detection, essentially allowing you to see units in fog of war while it is stationary, or it can upgrade a Panzergrenadier 41, replacing the MG42 in favor of a more powerful anti-tank weapon. This makes it much more effective against vehicles, but overall weaker against infantry in general. Overall, the Scout Car is a useful vehicle and is your only light vehicle available should you go the Luftwaffe Company, making it likely an important pickup.
The men are ready.
The final base unit available in the Luftwaffe Company is the Flak 30 anti-aircraft gun, costing 320 munitions. It is essentially a heavy team weapon. As seen, it has a firing arc similar to machine guns and anti-tank guns. It requires a setup and unleashes a very powerful barrage of fire. It's very effective against infantry and also decent against light vehicles. It has numerous abilities that allow it to engage targets that are as needed. Suppressing fire trades away some damage in favor of it being able to suppress enemy infantry. Meanwhile, button vehicle allows it to focus on a vehicle, and although it may not cause much damage, it can blind and cause other temporary criticals to the vehicle, such as slowing it down and removing its line of sight. Both of these abilities allow the Flak 30 to remain useful even in the late game, but does require munitions to become truly effective. Otherwise, it is largely a solid way to deter infantry from entering an area, although maybe not as strong as an MG since it doesn't naturally suppress. It can also be your anti-air source, so it can also fire against enemy planes. This makes the Flak 30 overall just really flexible in what it can do. But the biggest weakness is its otherwise slow speed, and also the fact that it is limited in its anti-tank, as anything larger than the light vehicle, so any real tank, will practically be immune to the Flak 30. Upon building the Luftwaffe Company, you are able to unlock the Advanced Assault Tactics. It is 200 manpower and 75 munitions in order to unlock the second tier of units. This can essentially be seen up as the tech up over the standard buildables. These provide more of a medium tank, and specifically for the Luftwaffe Company, it unlocks the Whirlwind and the Martyr 3. But it will also unlock upgrades in the other tech building of the Panzergrenadier building once you build that. The first unit that you can get from the advanced assault tactics is the Whirlwind, costing 360 manpower and 70 fuel. It is essentially a Flak 30, but mounted into a tank. Similar to the Flak 30, it is able to act as an anti-air gun, and it is highly effective against infantry and other light targets. It is a rapid-fire gun that is able to shred infantry. However, it being mounted in a tank chassis and able to move and fire makes it a lot more flexible and able to be used more aggressively, being able to get on top of enemies that can't deal with it and really shred them up. Again, the biggest weakness, however, is the fact that it also does not have any real ability to deal with enemy armor. There's just nothing it can do with its small caliber guns, and you'll need to get something else in order to support that. The Whirlwind does have the armor of 80 in the front, 60 on the side, and 40 in the back. This is a notable amount of armor. Not as much as what we'll see later on, but it does give the Whirlwind enough resilience to be able to occasionally stop anti-tank guns and bazooka hits and various other sources of AT. The final unit you can get out of the Luftwaffe Company is the Martyr 3. It is 280 manpower and a 45 fuel vehicle. It is armed with it is a casemate tank, meaning it can't aim a turret as it has none, but it has a powerful gun that is able to effectively deal with practically most armor that you will run into. Its armor is 70 in the front, 55 in the side, and 35 in the rear. This is thinner than the Whirlwind and makes it vulnerable to even light vehicles, especially if vehicles can get around its side. So the Martyr 3 requires engaging safely at long range, as otherwise it is very vulnerable to being flanked and overrun. Otherwise, there is not a whole lot to say about it. It has extra range compared to similar tank destroyers and is notably quite cheap at only 45 fuel. However, it also has no effect against pretty much infantry, as it does not contain any machine guns, and as such is solely reliant on dealing with enemy armor in order to be a worthwhile investment. However, that can be useful as the Luftwaffe doctrine, or the Luftwaffe Company, does not have any standard anti-tank gun, and will probably be relying on the Martyr in order to actually be of use. The next building we're going to take a look at is the Panzer Grenadier Company, costing 100 manpower and 40 fuel, the same cost as the Luftwaffe Company. The Panzer Grenadier Company provides you with a completely different roster, although it does notably also still work with advanced assault. Both buildings will have their extra units unlocked if you purchase the advanced assault tactics in one of them. It's not a separate upgrade. The first unit that comes out of the Panzer Grenadier building is the Panzer Grenadier Squad, costing 320 manpower. They are a close-range shock force. They are all armed with STG-44s, allowing them to be incredibly powerful at close range. They contain a bundled grenade, which is expensive but a highly powerful grenade. They can naturally have the sprint ability, allowing them to move rapidly in a short area. And they also have the new ability to Company of Heroes 3, the breach ability, allowing them to forcefully eject units out of the enemy garrisons. Overall, the Panzer Grenadier Squad is incredibly useful. Being able to be a powerful close-range squad helps to offset the weakness that most of the other German infantry has, such as the Grenadiers and the Jaeger infantry, both of which who are more long-range oriented. However, this does mean that on his own, there is also the problem with the Panzer Grenadier being vulnerable to long-range engagements himself, and namely, he also can have a hard time against MGs if he can't get close and flank quickly. The next up unit that we were able to look at is the PaK-40, a 270 manpower anti-tank gun. The PaK-40 is pretty basic in what it does, but is highly effective. It is just a powerful anti-tank team. It's 4 men, and overall is just here to give you a source of anti-tank weaponry that is able to really mess up the enemy armor. It's able to zone very effectively and overall just keep the enemy on the back foot while you either push an advantage or to help stem the tide if the enemy has driven you back somehow. The next unit we're taking a look at is the medium armored personnel carrier, the SD KFZ 251. It is 220 manpower and 20 fuel. Starting out, it is armed with an MG42 in the front and rear and is able to transport squads. It also has a few other abilities, namely the ability to recrew a weapon. What this means essentially is that for 50 manpower, if there is an uncrewed weapon with near the 251, it will pop out a few soldiers and they will instantly recrew the weapon. Very useful for not having to use your grenadiers or otherwise elite infantry to recrew a weapon that maybe you've captured or otherwise taken. However, the 251 also has two big upgrades. The first one is a medical half-track conversion. The half-track loses the ability to transport infantry, but instead is able to heal and reinforce nearby infantry, making it a useful forward headquarters. Or it can convert to a 75mm howitzer, again removing the ability to transport and reinforce infantry units, but gaining the ability to act as an indirect unit. This is an artillery unit and also that is able to fire high explosive and smoke rounds, allowing the 251 to act as artillery if needed. Both upgrades both have their uses. There's also an argument that you could keep the 251 to quickly transport important infantry units around the field as needed. But I would generally say that it is probably best to get the medical half-track or the Stummel 75mm howitzer in order to better make use of this vehicle. In terms of it being a light vehicle itself, it is sadly not that impressive. It is more so of an infantry transport and doesn't have any real fighting capability on its own. As a quick aside, I really want to say I love the Stummel. Here it is in action, acting as a barrage target, and then it's also able to barrage, smoke, and fire. But I do like how it looks, and essentially acting almost like a Stug 3E or a Brumbar in a manner. That is a really cool thing and really nice conversion. As a quick aside, I really want to say I love the Stummel. Here it is in action, acting as a barrage target, and then it's also able to barrage, smoke, and fire. But I do like how it looks, and essentially acting almost like a Stug 3E or a Brumbar in a manner. That is a really cool thing and really nice conversion. The next unit we're looking at is the Nebelwerfer 42. It requires the advanced assault tactics to be researched. It costs 360 manpower and is a crude team weapon, but it is rocket artillery. The only ability it has is to fire a single high explosive round or a single high explosive barrage of incendiary rockets. This means they leave fire where their explosions happen, which is very good at just simply driving away enemies from ever staying in that area. Overall, a very powerful tool to help contest and just dislodge tough enemy positions in the late game. The final unit you can unlock in the Panzer Grenadier Company is the Stug 3. It is 360 manpower and 50 fuel, and is an effective medium assault gun. It is powerful at engaging most enemy tanks outside of heavies, and it can also upgrade a Pintle MG42 in order to, or actually, this is a fixed MG42, my apologies, but this allows the Stug 3 to have better anti-infantry, and in fact, it can even load high explosive rounds, giving it a much more effective capability against infantry, although it is on a timed ability and kind of expensive munition-wise. This means that the Stug has limited infantry, but is mainly effective as an AT gun. Similar to the Martyr, the Stug offers a casemate tank that can serve as effective AT support, but this one arguably is more powerful due to it having the ability to get an MG alongside high explosive rounds to better engage enemy targets. However, this is a bit of a trade-off because unlike the Luftwaffe Company, who has stuff like the Flak Panzer and the Flak 30 that are excellent at killing infantry, instead the Panzergrenadier Company doesn't have as much anti-infantry capability, largely relying on the Nebelwerfer, which, although powerful, is not going to consistently be wiping squads, and as such the Stug has to compensate, which it does to an extent, but it's just not as effective as, say, a Whirlwind or a Flak 30. Regardless, the Stug 3 is a powerful and very useful medium vehicle that goes beyond your otherwise half-tracks and other light vehicles that you might be using. The Stug has the frontal armor of 210, side armor of 160, and rear armor of 80, which compared to the Martyr is actually significantly higher, and this makes it a very effective armored target that can be difficult for the enemy to deal with, but it does lack the extra range that the Martyr has, and I believe has a slightly weaker gun. But again, we've talked about the upsides and downsides. The fighter building we are able to build is the Panzer Company. It is 200 manpower and 130 fuel, but builds our strongest late-game units for the German faction. This makes it imperative to get out, but also something of a big investment, as 130 fuel is just quite a lot. The next unit, or the first unit we're going to look at within the Panzer Company is the Strobe squad. 420 manpower for an elite shock infantry. They are armed with an MG42 and Kar 98s. They have two abilities, either a grenade assault, where each member throws a stick grenade, or red phosphorus, which not only acts as a smokescreen, but also damages anything that is within the smokescreen. Overall, Sturmtruppen are very powerful and could be considered the Obersoldaten of this game, and they play very similar to that, being a small squad that is very powerful. They will pretty much be able to stand up to any troop or at any range, two riflemen and most other infantry, and can serve as essentially an elite infantry. However, that high cost does make them quite difficult, and similar to Obersoldaten from Company of Heroes 2, they also don't have any source of anti-tank, meaning that they have to rely on either vehicles or other infantry in order to cover that for them. Looking at the next unit, we have the Panzer IV, which is the primary medium tank within the doctrine. Costing 430 manpower and 90 fuel, it is armed with several machine guns and a 75mm, and serves the role of your medium tank. Its armor values are 200 in the front, 150 in the side, and 60 in the rear. Arguably, or notably, the highest we've seen so far. The only unit that gets similar is the Stug 3, with actually a little bit higher armor, but it doesn't have a turret and is less effective against infantry. The Stug can also mount a Pintle MG42, giving it 360 degrees of anti-infantry fire on top of its other machine guns. In terms of a medium tank, this is going to be kind of your standard limiter. It is able to go toe-to-toe with most allied vehicles that aren't heavy tanks or tank destroyers, and does a good job against all targets. It's a very good all-round late-game vehicle. The final unit we're taking a look at is the Brumbar. It is 420 manpower and 120 fuel for a heavy assault gun. It is the most powerful and heavily armored vehicle available to the Wehrmacht. With 320 frontal armor, it has almost 1.5 times, it actually has more than 1.5 times the armor of a Panzer IV, and also, but retains the same side armor and a little more rear armor. The sides being 150, the rear armor being 75, which is 15 more. Meaning that this vehicle, when frontally facing stuff, is incredibly difficult to damage, but is still relatively vulnerable to flanks such as the Panzer IV. It does have an incredibly powerful assault gun. A 150mm howitzer allows it to deal monstrous damage, and its role of a infantry bleeding monster remains true here. It is the most expensive vehicle available, so there definitely is a high cost to it. However, its ability to bleed almost any infantry due to its massive explosion radius is very, very powerful. But it does also lack any source of anti-tank weaponry, meaning it's most likely better to get access to a Panzer IV first, which is much more versatile. Or you could try to pair it up with stuff like Stugs, which are much cheaper, and then use the Brumbar to smash any infantry that would be messing with it. Next up, we're going to take a look at the battle groups. First off, we're going to start off with the Luftwaffe Battlegroup, and we're going to go down all of the various options and what they provide and what they can do for us. So to start out, we're going to look at the close air support side. So this first option allows us to either get a recon run or a strafing run. These two options are mutual exclusive, so you pick one and you're only able to pick one. The recon run costs only 1 CP point, while the strafing run requires 2. Both of them have their purposes, and depending on how quickly you're wanting to get into them, the recon run might be a better choice. Notably, the recon run is able to quickly let you get access to the Fallschirmjägers, which allows you to pull out your elite infantry at a faster rate. However, the strafing run has more power, being able to suppress and damage infantry units that are caught in it. Then the next up option is the Fallschirmjäger. This is a 1 CP elite infantry unit. It costs 360 manpower and can be deployed into enemy territory can actually just be deployed into enemy territory. They come armed with FG-42s and are highly effective at all ranges. They in fact act very similar to Strasstruppen, but serve as kind of a mix between Strasstruppen and Panzergrenadiers, as they actually have a stick grenade, a Panzerfaust giving them some AT capability, and the ability to breach enemy positions, something that various infantry units share. They are very powerful, however, and can definitely be very good. Moving on, we also have either butterfly bombs or the Stuka rocket run. So the butterfly bombs are essentially an anti-infantry area denial. A Stuka will fly by and will drop butterfly bombs, which will explode and essentially just obliterate any infantry within the area. The rocket run, on the other hand, instead is more focused at anti-tank capabilities. It is able to deal high damage to any vehicle caught within them, but has a very small radius and a high cost, meaning it is very important to aim this carefully. On the right side of ground-to-air tactics, we start off with a 0 CP Fallschirm Pioneer. It is 260 manpower and can be dropped into any area that you can see. Unlike Fallschirmjägers, which can blind jump, Fallschirm Pioneers can only be dropped into either friendly territory or anywhere that has line of sight. They are a 4-man engineer squad, making them superior to the standard engineer unit. They contain everything that the standard Pioneers would have: the repairability. They construct a series of defenses, although they actually have one unique thing of the Luftwaffe relay point. This is a unique building that allows that not only locks down territory, but allows Fallschirmjäger units to reinforce nearby it. This can be a very useful rally point for your army. They can also construct the Flak 38 anti-air emplacement, which is a very basic just anti-air gun in a small little defensive structure. They come pre-equipped with minesweepers and also have the unique ability of throwing a satchel charge, which is a high-powered explosive very useful at blowing up buildings. They have two upgrades, either the MG-15 or the GRB-39 grenade launcher. The MG-15 is a long-range machine gun that just makes them much better at supporting your other forces, while the GRB grenade launcher is better against units in cover and can almost be seen as a sort of long-range flamethrower. Although not as outright lethal as a flamethrower, it serves a similar purpose. Overall, the Fallschirm Pioneer Squad is able to offer excellent support and build some important things that you will get access to on this right side. Next up, we have either Infantry Reserves or the Luftwaffe Combat Group. The Infantry Reserves cuts the reinforcement cost of your infantry in half, which is a massive discount, or the Luftwaffe Combat Group, which allows you to buy a Wirbelwind and a Jaeger infantry squad. It costs essentially the same amount that it would to get both units. 500, well, actually, it is a little cheaper in manpower, but a little more expensive in fuel. 560 manpower and 80 fuel. This is overall potentially a useful call-in, effective at quickly getting a series of reinforcements on the field. Although they do not contain anything special, so don't expect a incredibly powerful unit. Then the final tier has either the heavy weapon airdrop or the Flak 3688. Pioneer and Fallschirmjägers are able to construct a stationary Flak 88, which is an incredibly powerful anti-air unit and also an AT unit. It will be able to practically penetrate any enemy unit, any enemy tank, and can also serve as anti-air when needed. The L640 can be airdropped anywhere on the field. It is essentially a lighter recoil gun, or a lighter anti-tank gun, but it does need to be crewed also, which is an important thing to make note of.
You need us? Weapon team ready.
This is a very fast-moving anti-tank gun, which is an important thing. This extra mobility can be a giant benefit to the weapon, allowing you to quickly get AT where you need. Taking a look at the Breakthrough Battle Group, the left side Assault Tactics gives us a variety of options, starting off with Assault Grenadiers, a 0 CP option. It allows our Grenadiers to transform into Assault Grenadiers. For 25 munitions, they are able to gain access to MP40s. They get Assault Grenades, meaning each member can throw a grenade, and they can sprint. This allows Grenadiers to turn into an actual effective combat squad that is able to effectively pressure the enemy and really fight at close range, completely changing how they perform. They still retain their Merge and Panzerfaust, also meaning that the Grenadier squad overall retains a high amount of power and is overall just very effective, much more effective in this form, although it doesn't perform at range anymore. Next up, we have the option of either Breakthrough or Smoke Bombing Run. Breakthrough enables infantry for a short time limit when activated to capture at increased periods. This is very useful as capping speed is a bit slow, so being able to quickly capture what you need is very useful. Meanwhile, Smoke Bombing Run allows you to rapidly fly over an area and drop smoke bombs. It's a pretty straightforward ability, Just overall, both allow you to more effectively assault positions, such with the smoke bomb, or take a lot of territory. If you can sneak off an infantry or two onto a flank that is not well fought for, you can very easily just use breakthrough and cap up a large portion of the map before the enemy can respond. Then the final option is either a mechanized assault group or an incendiary bombing run. The incendiary bombing run's pretty straightforward. A plane will fly over, drop some bombs, and then fire will just engulf that area, killing anything that is unlucky enough to be standing there. Meanwhile, the mechanized assault group comes with a SD KFZ 251 and a Sturmtruppen. It costs 520 manpower and 20 fuel to do so. The Sturmtruppen comes riding within the half-track, but this can be a very effective call-in depending on when you pick it, because you're able to often get your first Sturmtruppen and might be able to use the half-track to quickly get it on the battlefield, or use it in various different scenarios, such as, making it into an artillery piece or using it as a forward healing station to keep the Sturmtruppen more effective. And the Sturmtruppen in general is just quite effective. The left side of the track, Armored Offensive, has more focus around various armored-based units. Rapid Production is one of your first options, which cuts the build speed of vehicles in half. Or you can get a logistics truck, which is essentially an Opel Blitz for 240 manpower and 15 fuel. You're able to lock down a territory, increasing its resource gain. A useful way to bolster your economy, essentially acting like a mobile cache that can be planted on places like high-income fuel territories. The second options includes a option of Blitzkrieg or a Command Panzer IV. Blitzkrieg allows all your vehicles to move faster and also perform better combat-wise for a short duration. This is an activated ability, but you also have the Command Panzer IV, which acts as a command tank. You are able to call this in for 90 fuel and 380 manpower. It is able to fire either standard rounds or high explosive rounds, as it has a short-barreled 75mm gun. This makes it less effective against armored targets than the standard Panzer IV, but because of the high explosive, can become very effective against infantry. However, its main benefit, I believe, is that it retains this commander aura that was seen on the command tank in Company of Heroes 2. Essentially, nearby units get an extra benefit from being around it, an extra defensive bonus. Although we don't have any indication, so that may be incorrect, or maybe this unit is not fully functional yet. It's hard to say, but I would assume that is what it is. And then at the end, for 6 CP, you can unlock the Tiger tank. 650 manpower and 200 fuel. There is a limit of one of them, but the Tiger tank is truly a monster. Also, just very quickly, if you look at the armor of the Command Panzer, it has less armor than the standard Panzer IV, starting 160 in the front, 120 on the sides, and 60 in the rear. If you remember just a little bit ago, the Panzer IV had 200 in the front, 150 on the side, and also 60 on the back. Anyway, let's get on to the real show-off. The Tiger, which, might actually be stuck back here. Well, that's fine. We'll just talk about him right back here. The Tiger tank is a very powerful tank. This thing has, at least for the games I've played with it, has absolutely won games. The 88mm gun is highly effective. It's armed with machine guns, making it overall very good against infantry and vehicles. It also has incredible armor. It has 320 frontal armor, which is the same as the Brumbar, but it has 240 side armor, which means it has more side armor than that of a Panzer IV. And then the rear armor remains at 80, which is still more than most other tanks. This means the Tiger is incredibly durable and difficult to penetrate unless you have dedicated AT weapons. However, this is also one of the main weaknesses of the Tiger, is that it is a bit slow and also very long to repair. I definitely recommend having several engineer units nearby in order to repair it, as the Tiger just has a massive health pool and it will bleed health slowly, and it takes a long time to repair the fewer squads you have. Otherwise, that is going to be it for today. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this. Have you tried out the German faction, and have you enjoyed it? I plan on doing a US version of this also, and we'll talk about everything over there. And then I'm also probably going to make another video or two on Company of Heroes 3. The beta only lasts a couple days, so we got to move quickly here, but I've been enjoying it so far. And again, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the US one, and also maybe a couple other videos. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and have a good day.